I guess for my second pick of the Sunday six pack, since I'm talking about this game, I have the under 51.5 here at BetMGM. And I make this game 1.5, so I'm with you there, especially if you can get 3.5. I have home field across the board in the NFL. It can differ based on certain circumstances, weather, matchups. But for the most part, it's 1 point across the board on average now, but that's lower for division games. There's already familiarity there, so it's about a half a point for division games. So the home field here is not much at all for me. And for what it's worth, since 2000, dogs in playoff games playing a team a third time. So when you're an underdog in the third matchup, they're 17-10 against the spread. We saw it last week. Rams, Browns, they both won outright as underdogs. 12 of the 17 won outright overall. Teams that lost both outright, as the Bucs did, they're 4-3 against the spread. It's only a sample size of 7 over those 20 years. But the reason that I like the under here, and look, the Saints, they played in the first game of the year. It was Brady's first game in Tampa. And there was a lot of fluke special teams plays. Bucs special teams is awful, by the way. And then the other matchup, Marpet was out. It was the first game with Antonio Brown. It's actually on behind me right now. But here's the thing. So there was a lot of fluky stuff. I mean, Breeze only threw for 222 yards in that second matchup, and they blew him out. What worries me, really, I mean, Breeze threw 6 touchdowns, no picks in those 2 games, and it was just a lot of short passes because the Bucs defense, what they do is they run a lot of zone, but they run a 3-4, and the reason that they're so good against the run is because they play a lot of zone, and the reason they're so good against covering backs is because they play a lot of zone up front, and that allows them to blitz. That allows them – you don't know what linebacker is coming in Todd Bowles' defense, so it's hard to play man with the way that he wants to play and be so good against the run and get pressure. But because of that, they've been playing a lot of off coverage on the outside with their corners all year, and they've been playing a lot of zone on the back end, and that's why Breeze was just able to throw these like 4 to 5 yard passes up and down the field against Tampa. One of the things you look for, and look, this under 51.5, 52, try to get 52, it's a semi-key number, is you're not going to find, I think, a total where you're like, wow, I make this 2 to 3 points different in the playoffs. We have all this data on how these teams operate, and I think that where you are going to find your edge is just based on, and I spent all week digging. I don't know, the amount of time I put into these games, I'm like, how the hell do I ever cap 16 games a week when you go down some wormholes in these games? But I think that you're going to see more press on the outside from the Bucs, and this is just how I think it's going to play out. Is these teams that meet for a third time, the defenses can make the adjustments. The team that lost the first 2 games is able to. They have the benefit. All right, we're going to make adjustments. The team that won the first 2 easily, what do they really have to change? Drew Brees against press man this year completed 57% of his passes compared to 75% against off coverage, which the Bucs used almost predominantly the entire game in that second matchup. Defense is now fully healthy. White's back. Their secondary is healthy. So I think you're going to see more press man on the outside. I think Todd Bowles will make some adjustments to switch up that D. On the other side, yes, Brady tore up Washington, but I think that was more of an indictment on what Washington wanted to do. Washington was trying to run like these random stunts. What the hell were they doing? I don't know. I mean, it was a very odd defensive game plan for me, and as a result, they didn't get much pressure. The Saints don't blitz much. They're right about league average, but they're still able to get pressure. I think they're 6th in pressure rate in the NFL. That's what you have to do against Brady. You have to get pressure against him without blitzing, because if you're blitzing, he's great at diagnosing the blitz and getting rid of the ball quick. And that's why this year's interception rate versus the Saints, 6.7, versus the rest of the league, 1.2. Trey Hendrickson, it looks like, will be back. That's huge. He can just kind of he was second in the NFL in sacks, I believe. He dominated Brady this year. I think he sacked him 3 straight plays. One of them was nullified by a defensive penalty. But that's big if he's back, and it looks like he's trending to back. So that he will – I'm going to say it again. Looks like he's trending to that he will play. So I think this Saints defense will be fine here. I also think that the Bucs – and look, the Saints are going to go slower. They're going to try to run the ball, and you can't really run on Tampa, but it's slow passing. They don't really attack downfield, which has been a weakness of Tampa's defense over the past 6 to 7 weeks. But on the other side of the ball, I actually think, and look, goes into the handicap of this, that Tampa's going to try to run it more, which I do not agree with that approach. In some sense, I do, in that you want to get some play action working, but you don't necessarily need to run to get play action working. But there's been a lot of talk from Bruce Arians about needing to run the ball more. And if they do that, that's going to play right into the other's hands. I mean, the last time they played, it was more great game script related, and they got blown out right away. But Ronald Jones ran the ball 3 times for 9 yards. That was their entire rushing attack for the entire game. Let me check. Yeah, and Fournette had 1 carry for no yards. So they had 4 carries for 9 yards in the entire game. So I think that they're going to try and establish the run here more, which I hate, but it's going to help to the under. So in all, I agree with you on the Bucs having a bit of value here. If you can get 3.5, if you could buy 3.5 to -120 or cheaper, I would do that. I think they're also a viable tease piece. But the way that I foresee this game playing out, it's not like I'm like, oh, there's 3 points of value on this under. And I've adjusted it because of this. But I think that this is going to be, because of the adjustments, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than most, and the market is projecting here. I think this ends up being like 24-20. And it should be a good one. But don't disagree with your play.
Yeah, we talked about, I think it was last week, with the Saints in the Superdome, I think they're kind of a team that the public looks to and says, okay, team, they're probably going to go over, they're indoors, but the last 4 now have gone under. And, that Chicago game, I mean, you saw the defense, but the offense only put up 21 points going, and they could have had another touchdown, but still, it was a struggle for New Orleans against a defense in Chicago that I think is not quite as good as this one in Tampa. So, yeah, I'm expecting this game to tilt toward the under 2. Tampa Bay is due some regression from obviously the first 2 matchups on offense. And last week they dropped 13.5% of their targets. On the regular season, they averaged 5.3%. So I don't expect them to have as many drops, but I do expect New Orleans to get enough pressure, and I expect Tampa Bay to do what they have to do against Breeze. I don't expect Breeze to attack down the field with any kind of consistency. So, yeah, I expect this game to win under as well.